Yeah, tell us a little about yourself. How many years have you been to mobile development?
To be honest, I have a special slide for this about me. It will be second, but yeah, I can repeat. You know, if you're talking about myself, I can talk more. I'm in general development. I'm a bit more than 20 years already.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but if you're talking about mobile since 2018, as I remember, or 2017, 5 or 6 years.
Okay, really nice to hear it. So I have another question, just a warm-up question. So what's better, Android or iOS?
Or Windows Phone.
Or Windows Phone, definitely. Should I buy a Windows Phone? And so honestly, yesterday I watched a fantastic movie about BlackBerry, who killed the BlackBerry. I was really impressed that iPhone, at the very beginning, just wiped out BlackBerry market completely. So at the moment, we have two major players on the market. So which one is better?
Nice questions. I'm asking myself every time when I take one hand Android, Pixel 6 and iPhone 14 in the second hand and try to choose, because as a Flutter developer, you know, in Flutter you can develop for both of them. And if you're a Flutter developer, you need to have both of them just to check that you implement everything fine. So I like both. But my personal mobile phone is iPhone.
Okay, nice to hear it, because we're on the same page here. Nevertheless, I want to admit that every year I with pleasure watch presentation from both Google and Apple, because they do amazing things, which, as they told us every year, which brings us to the next level with immersive experience. So right now, the stage is yours, Alexander. So please go ahead with your slides. We really want to hear your story about building what it will be about, right? It will
be about Flutter.
Yes, definitely, for enterprise solutions. So please go ahead. The stage is yours.
Yeah, let me find my slides and share them. Give me a second.
And by the way, while Alexander is searching for his slides, so colleagues, you're very welcome to ask questions. Please do not forget to put them into the chat, and we'll do our best in order to answer all your questions and ask our speaker to answer your questions. So, Alex, I'm muting myself. Literally, please go ahead.
As I understood, you see my slides. Okay. So, hello, everyone. Nice to meet you all. The name of my talk is Flutter for Enterprise Solutions. Actually, here I will try to demonstrate whether the Flutter framework is ready for the development of enterprise mobile applications. To be honest, Flutter was ready to implement such solutions for a long time already, but the topic is still actual, because still a lot of people are not familiar with this framework and don't know how many different advantages or possibilities this framework gives. So, as you could understand, the target audience of this talk, people not very familiar with Flutter. But if you're a Flutter developer and very experienced in Flutter, who knows? I mean, don't rush to disconnect of my talk. Probably you also will find something new about Flutter. So the slide that I mentioned before. Let me introduce myself. Yeah. My name is Alexander Denisov. I'm Chief Software Engineer in EPAM. And here I'm head of Flutter discipline. In addition, I'm Google Developer Expert in Flutter and Dart, or just GDE. GDE program is a global network of technology experts and influencers. And there are only about 100 GDE in Flutter and Dart around the globe now. Yeah, and I'm really proud to Can I ask to mute somebody who are not muted?
Yeah, let me check.
Yeah, I just checked. Everybody is on mute.
Okay, good. So if you will have questions about GD program later, just contact me. I will share details about this program. So like Google community of expert and influencers. Okay, let's move on. There is a short plan of my talk. First of all, we will try to figure out what is the actual problem, which I will analyze today. Then we'll investigate what requirements are there for building enterprise applications and which of them Flutter meets and so on. Yeah. And finally, I'll tell you about some features of Flutter development and EPAM systems. Okay, let's go. What is the actual talk about? Why is the question about Flutter and enterprise applications development especially relevant at the current time? But before, let's define what is an enterprise application. Yeah. So mobile, being mobile is very important for modern business. Yeah, enterprise mobile application. It's just mobile applications that allow to digitalize workflows and help employees in big enterprise companies and clients of such companies to have anytime, anywhere access to corporate resources or something like this. Yeah, and from like small day-to-day planners to like huge and corporate super applications. And these kind of applications like give opportunity to all like clients and employees to stay mobile. Yeah. But development of such applications requires specific approaches and requirements. Actually, customers like reliable and proven tools and solutions, and even when they see that a Flutter solution is cheaper than the same implemented with native, since there is no need for several development teams, yeah, they have adapt the sufficient maturity of the framework and the ecosystems, yeah, because getting involved with like with something new is always a risk. Yeah, that's why it's so important to answer the question of whether Flutter is ready for serious development or not. By the way, what is the Flutter? If you still don't know this answer to this question, yeah. Flutter is a Google framework for building mobile applications using declarative approach and Dart language. Flutter is beautiful, fast, productive, and open. It's a terms from Google presentations. Why? Beautiful, because Flutter enable you to build beautiful applications. You can see on the not screenshots, like videos, GIFs. Because Flutter provides a rich palette of tools and give you control over every pixel on your screen.
With current frame per screen per second is not native.
Yeah, it doesn't look native in the presentation because, but still we believe that it should be quite fast. I would like to have a couple of questions, but I will postpone them till the end. So please go ahead.
Probably connection is not very stable yet because in my screen, everything very fast.
It seems.
Fluent, yeah. Yeah, fast because Flutter is powered by Skia engine and the graphic engine, which enables hardware accelerated graphics. Yeah, productive because Flutter introduced stateful host reload capability and the opportunity to increase the speed of development with like useful development tools and so on. Yeah, and open because Flutter is open source. So since 2019, Flutter is not cross-platform anymore. Flutter is multi-platform, and since 2021, if I'm not mistaken, 2022, I forgot the exact year, when Flutter team announced that Flutter has stable production support of 6 platforms: so Android, iOS, web, Windows, Linux, and macOS. But it's officially supported platform. For example, I was involved to development applications with Flutter for Tizen, for Apple TV, and yeah, I heard about application in Flutter for WebOS, for Raspberry Pi. So Flutter can be used for many platforms, not only officially supported. And as many platforms your application have to support, so as many resources you can save, because you don't need like 6 development teams for development. You can have only 1. Okay, beautiful, fast. If you already heard something about Flutter before, you heard something like this, like I mentioned, about fast, beautiful, and so on. Yeah, we will talk about this later, but in specific context when we will talk about enterprise application. Let's figure that out. Is it possible to develop an enterprise application with Flutter or not? But what are serious enterprise application requirements? Requirements generally split for 2 types: functional and non-functional requirements. But as you probably know, functional requirements specifies what exactly should software system do, and non-functional requirements just places constraints on how should the software system fulfill functional requirements. The functional requirements declared by customer usually, and don't relate to today's topics. Among them, good mobile application should meet the whole range of criteria or non-functional requirements. And often, compliance with this criteria directly depends on the selected framework. Which kind of criteria I'm talking about? Platform compatibility, security, performance, scalability, flexibility, testability, usability, a lot of abilities. Let's go for the list of these criteria and let's check that Flutter met this capabilities to be successful in all these areas. Okay, platform compatibility. The first one. You know, iOS and Android are updated like regularly on a regular basis, and new versions of every platform bring new functionality. And actually, at the same time, new issues for developers. However, backward compatibility with old platforms sometimes can bring even more challenges and issues. Development and for the support of an application for different platforms, versions have an impact on the cost, resources, and time required to implement it. All that, yeah. So, Flutter engine contains the Skia. Skia is two-dimensional graphics rendering library that is used in Android and in Chromium. Flutter just renders UI output on the Skia canvas. And Flutter doesn't connect to native controls or components. By the way, and now Flutter team decided to abandon Skia because Skia works not the best way with shaders, and Skia compiles shader in runtime, which something how to say, sometimes bring junks with complex graphics and animations. So Flutter team decided not to fix Skia, but implement their own two-dimensional renderer with name Impeller. Yeah. Impeller is next generation rendering engine. In comparison with Skia, Impeller uses precompiled shaders and you avoid issues with dropped frames in runtime caused by shader compilations because it precompiles shaders. And there is a video from official slides when Impeller was announced, and you can see the difference in performance on complex animations. In the last Flutter release, Impeller is now is used for iOS by default. For Android, and still is in development beta. And you can check it, but not used in production. We'll wait. Probably they will implement Impeller for all platforms soon. So just wanted to show one of new feature of Impeller, 3D rendering support. It's two-dimensional rendering library, but creators are thinking about three-dimensional support as well. On the video, you can see my hand and everything that you see implemented in Flutter. So probably in the future, it will be possible to use Flutter for game development. Now this feature is experimental. Okay, let's come back to our topic and have a look at the difference between how native and Flutter application builds UI. Native application code works with like OEM widgets or like native UI components and services like camera, Bluetooth, and so on. We just call from our code base a platform API or ask platform to paint to render platform UI widgets. Yeah, and widgets are rendered on screen canvas, and widgets are part of platform, and of course will be different in different platforms. iOS has iOS UI components, Android has Android UI components. And sometimes they also can be changed, and the same component can be different for different version of platform. Flutter works another way. Flutter application UI is just built using Flutter's own widgets. And these widgets are just building blocks of applications that look good, feel good, they're fast and customizable and extensible. Yeah. And as I told before, Flutter doesn't use native UI components at all. Yeah, Flutter just renders the widgets, and as I mentioned before, by using Skia or now Impeller, and render it on canvas directly, and this allow this widget to be customizable and extendable. Yeah. And the most important part, it makes them independent on the platform and the platform version. So it means that an application written with Flutter will look almost the same on a like old Android mobile phone and the latest iPhone. UI will be completely the same with the same code base. Yeah. If, of course, if nothing will be done specifically to have different UI, for example, to follow guidelines, to have native iOS UI and native Android UI. Yeah. So in case of web, Flutter works the same way. Just render it and add it to web application. I mean, Skim just added to web application as a WebAssembly and render UI in your browser canvas. Yeah, and as you see, it's just example for my one of my applications, the same code base with responsive layout. Will be look from one side a little bit different, from other side to the same way on iPhone, Android tablet, and in browser. And also just wanted to demonstrate like features of the last version of Flutter. In the last version of Flutter, there were added support of pixel shaders in the web, and you can create in browser nice something nice, beautiful. I don't know how you see it, but
I see it very well.
Yes, much better.
Nice. Probably something wrong with my connection here, with my Wi-Fi. Who knows? Okay. Let's move on. It's from platform compatibility to security. Yeah. When developing enterprise application, you have to pay special attention to security due to confidential nature of data, because big enterprise companies, and customer won't be happy if sensitive data falls to the hands of like hackers or competitors. Therefore, all technologies and outsourced components should be assessed from a security point of view and scanned for vulnerabilities and before the release. Yeah. So there are many strategies hackers employ to gain access for personal information or unsuspecting mobile apps users. Yeah. So, for example, reverse engineering is the most important trait for some cross-platform frameworks. For example, if we talk about React Native bundles, that it was the issue before. Yeah, that's just JavaScript code, and somebody could always extract the bundle and reverse engineer it, and it was a serious concern. But Flutter is harder to reverse engineering because it's get complied ahead of time into native code, and for target architecture or for iOS or for Android, it will be exact native application without bundles, and so something like this. And additional Dart supports code obfuscation. If I suppose you know what does code obfuscation means, but if you don't know, like code obfuscation is a process that modifies executable of executables or like hide function class names, making it difficult to reverse engineer. And when you reverse engineer it, you understand nothing. For persisting user private information, Flutter has some already implemented packages. For example, Flutter Secure Storage plugin provides secure storage using iOS keychain or Android keystore. for a store of, but you don't need to store simple data. Yeah? You can use simple store for this. But if you need to store sensitive data, you have special plugin. Yeah, but if you don't have plugin with from out of the box or something for something that you wanted to do with data, you always can use your native solution and just call it from your Flutter application. Yeah. But of course, don't forget to update your Flutter to last SDK, because every fix of Flutter can fix security issues that was found before, if they was found. That just don't forget. And if it's possible, don't use old version of Flutter. Okay, next one, performance. Application shouldn't annoy the user due to slow response time and random freeze or crash. Generally, Flutter applications perform by default. Attempts to provide 60 frames per second performance, or even 120 frames per second if device capable for 120 frames. Yeah, so you only need to avoid common pitfalls to get excellent performance instead of needing some micro-optimized and complicated profiling tools. If you need to tune your app performance, or perhaps the UI is as smooth as you expected, the Flutter plugin for your IDE can help. Or you can use separate Flutter DevTools that execute in your browser and just check how many microseconds your frame is building, how many microseconds your frame is rendering, and just based on this, look for pitfalls and fix them. And as you saw on previous slide, you just can do it on your mobile phone screen during testing your mobile application. Yeah. What I wanted to say. By default, Flutter is very performant, and you just need to not to do mistakes in your code. If I see not very performant Flutter application,
just don't make mistakes in your code. Sorry.
the most how to say almost 100% that there are just bad code somewhere. But sometimes it's of course related to bad backhand, long response, and so on. But you can just check it. If it's not related to long response, it's probably the mistake in your code. Okay, scalability. Scalability takes special place among non-functional requirements for mobile applications, because a common mobile app is a set of pages with transition between them. Yeah, and a page usually has some kind of form for input data, or like some elements for data visualization, and like list, for example, or grid. Yeah, and if the number, like amount of data increase, the application may slow down and cause memory leaks, lose data, and crash. In order to avoid such issues, there are a lot of various techniques such as caching, dynamic data loading, and so on. So scalability is very important for mobile applications. If like initial design of application give you a place for scalability, it will be require minimum investments to scale it in future. And of course, here one of the most important points is the architecture of the application. And good architecture is a key to build a modular, scalable, maintainable, testable application. And if implementation follow good architecture with loose coupling between components, you don't need to do like revolution every time if you need to do changes. It's pretty easy to replace like database or plugin or anything in application that fits the solution without affecting the business rules and high-level components. So, what else? Yeah. Sometimes software developers are very creative and can apply something during the implementation with new functionality when up to scaling. Yeah, but this creativity is good, but shouldn't be like chaotic and should follow general rules. So when you start a project, you just need to have something like code guidelines, and this guideline should be make your project like not to be chaotic in your code development. And Flutter has a special static code analyzer out of the box, and there are a lot of prepared rules that you can switch on and make your code guidelines to be checked automatically.
Definitely, this code guidelines was prepared by Google. I know that they're preparing amazing guidelines for Java, for C++, for Python, and Dart with.
Not exactly. Google prepared a lot of rules, and you can make a lot of combinations and even implement your own. For example, in case of Flutter, yes, of course, we have Google default set of rules, but you don't need to use it. You can take one of most popular set of rules that implemented by some vendors like Very Good Ventures or something else, or always you can just edit your analysis options YAML file and make your own combinations of everything. Change level of year, add special lint rules, switch on, switch off some rules. Yeah.
What about exception? Is exceptions allowed? Because I know that Google doesn't allow exceptions in the codes.
Sorry, didn't catch your question.
Are exceptions allowed in the code? Because as Ruslan is saying, the exceptions are not recommended to be used by Google.
No, of course there are exceptions. You can just in Dart you have this usual as in Java try and catch something.
Okay, it's not Google.
Yeah.
Okay, in this case I have another good question because again we started talking about static code analysis. What's recommended to use in Dart? Spaces or tabs?
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
I don't care, to be honest.
Sorry, Alexander, for interrupting you. Please continue.
Don't worry. Okay, flexibility. Flexibility is the ability of application to change easily in response to different user and system requirements.
I will switch off.
Okay. Yeah. Flexible software is able to like adapt to changes in both environment and usability requirements, like without encompassing. It's also free of hard structures that otherwise would obstruct functional evolution and growth. Yeah. I already told about clean architecture, and let's talk how to make Flutter. Not how to make which opportunities Flutter has to make application flexible. And the first is everything is a widget. Everything is a widget. This is a Flutter like catchphrase, and it reveals the inner force of this framework. As I told before, widgets is just building blocks of UI in the Flutter application. And moreover, it's a complex widgets can be a composition of simpler widgets, and then turn a composition of even simpler widgets, and more. What does it mean? It means that first, we can reuse widgets on any screens where we need. And second, we can use different widgets in one place, depending on the platform, configuration, something else. And so if you need to replace one UI component or change a part of it, it will be necessary to do it in one place only, separated from the rest of the other widgets. An application will be, to say, less error prone, since the role of each widget is well defined. It will also be easier to share a part of the layout or layout on another page within your app or another app. Here's just example of simple application where I changed only one widget, but everything that you see was changed. I changed only widget of representation of planet from right to left, and it's small change that changed everything. But what I wanted forgot about the slide. Now you can even embed your widgets into your native applications. For example, you have iOS application already implemented and Android application already implemented, and you need to create something that we will use on the both platform, but you don't want implement it twice because functionality is the same. And you can implement it in Flutter and just embed your Flutter piece of UI and Flutter piece of logic into your native application, and it will be work. And not even full screen activity. It just can be like small view and piece of your native application, and it works. Not how to say, not slow. It's work really performant, because I wanted to add, and you can have not only one Flutter piece on the screen, you can have many, and there implemented functionality of caching Flutter engine. That's why in this case, Flutter won't be create separate Flutter engine for each piece of Flutter UI. It will be shared between all of them. That's why it will be not like resource, very resource. Not all resources you will need. Yeah, for it. Okay. So.
Oh, your favorite topic.
Yes, my favorite topic.
You mean inversion of control, your favorite topic?
Yes, some Java stuff.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, here I just wanted to say that application is not only presentation layer, not only UI. There are also like business logic, and service layer, and you also can make functionality of these layers flexible using inversion control. You can just change implementation of services or like business logic components, and there are a lot of special packages from not from out of the box, already implemented by community that you can use to save your time. And even Flutter has its own approach to implement this principle, inherited widget, when you can use this inversion control approach in your widget tree. So I didn't want to disappoint you, but I didn't have a lot of words about inversion of control. But you can just ask me later details about this. And what I wanted to highlight here that Flutter also has pre-shaking mechanism. Pre-shaking mechanism is just mechanism of dead code elimination. When just Flutter checks which functions, which classes will be executed in your application, and add only them to your final build. All methods that won't be executed, just eliminated. And there's in the tools, there are nice upsize tools where you can check size of your application and just and even compare two different builds. For example, do some changes and check the different in size which objects were included in your build and which weren't. I even have a separate specific talk about the Flutter shaking mechanism. You can find it on YouTube following this QR code if you're interested. When I share details about how this mechanism works and how we can how it can be useful for us in our software development, because you're shaking just working somewhere and nobody cares. But there are some nuances. Okay, next criterion, usability. Usability is very important aspect of any application and it will never be forgotten. It's necessary to carefully investigate your future audience and your customers' requirements and for the implementation of great usability. But how can a framework make an impact on usability? Yeah, on first side, it cannot. This is the responsibility of designers, business analysts, UX and UI UX specialists, not developers. Yeah. But there is one feature that Flutter has that is indirectly related to usability. Flutter widgets can be generated automatically from several designer toolkits. You can use and generate Flutter widgets from Adobe XD or from Figma and even from Sketch for special design system of Supernova. Yeah, but of course, these generated widgets can be used in your application because the code that generated by generator will be not perfect, wrong word, not usable. But if do additional refactoring, it's sometimes possible to use. But this opportunity exactly allows you to check how your widget match the design right on the device screen. You can just generate view from Figma, for example, and compare how your widget corresponds it. Testability. The last criterion that we will discuss today. So, as you know, there are a lot of different type of testing. All of them required to detect defects, different stages of application development, like manual testing, performance testing, automated UI testing, and so on. And all of them are conducted to evaluate the compliance of system or component with specified functional requirements. And of course, unit testing. Yeah. So let's skip manual testing, because manual testing is not about framework, it's just about manual testing. But all other kind of testing supported by Flutter from out of the box. You can write unit tests for testing functions, methods, classes, etc. And you can write widget tests for testing UI components. So for mobile development, probably unit testing is not a very common practice, but enterprise applications obligatory should be covered by tests. I think not less 60–70%, yeah, because it big complicated application and changes somewhere can break something in different part. Yeah, Flutter also provides like some kind of tooling that gives opportunity to check your current test coverage. It's not perfect, I will say, but still it works. Yeah. So what else? So continuous integration, like CI, CD. This like CI/CD integration gives you opportunity to run your test automatically during your your development flow, and yeah, a lot of CI/CD tools already support Flutter, and you don't need to make something yourself. You can just take already implemented functionality and this is Flutter application, and so it will work fine. Okay, so we analyzed all the criteria, and I suppose found out that framework itself allows covering all non-functional requirements for enterprise application if we will do everything properly. Yeah.
Magic again.
So yeah. I will say it's necessary to have developers who can create such applications properly using Flutter. And, we have such people in EPAM. Yeah. So we have a lot of activities inside, like our Flutter competency. We can train our employees around the world from mentoring program. We have knowledge assessment practice, interviewing practice with certified interviews. Probably you know all of them, yeah. We develop knowledge base. We have some research and proof of concept activities with like sharing knowledge after this research of proof of concept. And yeah, and we have community. I just wanted to invite, if you're interested in mobile development and not a member of mobile people community, welcome. This is the link. You can join, and we have a lot of interesting events related to mobile development. For example, I just advertise a minute of advertising.
Yeah.
For example, in August, we will organize like 3 days conference related to mobile development, 1 day related to native Android, 1 day related to native iOS, and 1 day related to cross-platform. So registration already open. Unfortunately online, but still there will be a lot of interesting things. So conclusions. Conclusions. Is Flutter ready or not? Of course ready, and ready for a long time. But as I mentioned before, yeah, sometimes it's necessary to prove for people that Flutter is already ready. Yeah. For example, we already implemented some enterprise project in EPAM, and some of this project already in store and works fine. So thank you very much for attention. Yeah, sorry, and if you thought about starting a new project with Flutter, but had some doubts, I hope I dispelled your doubts. But if not, just please contact me and we'll try again. Yeah, and yeah, don't hesitate to contact me on Teams or Twitter, and I will answer everything. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alexander.
Thank you, Alexander.
Yeah, our hand claps are to you, and we have a few questions in the chat. So the first question was pleasantly answered by Artyom, but still I have another question. We have still another question in the chat. So as a React Native developer, I find that third-party libraries support in React Native are very strong. Does Flutter have a wide ecosystem of third-party libraries?
1 second. I don't know why, but Teams asked me to authenticate again.
It's Paul.
Yeah, just
because
it's
Paul.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I will do it later.
Yes.
So third-party libraries. Yes, Flutter community is growing and growing and growing and growing since 2018, and Flutter community is very active and very productive. That's why they implemented a lot of plugins that just Flutter is like React Native. It's mostly UI component that under the UI just works with the native functionality. But if you have already implemented plugin, you don't need to care about native part. You just call that method and everything works. And yeah, the most common like native mobile functionality already covered by Flutter plugins. And so, of course, if you have very not often not common case, you always can implement plugin yourself. It's if you know like Kotlin or Swift or JavaScript or TypeScript for web or C++ for Windows or Linux. You can implement everything yourself. But yeah, there are tons of already implemented plugins, sometimes more than one for the same functionality. And it's very easy to add it to project. There's pub/spec YAML. You just write the name of library version, and everything will be connected to your project.
Okay, it sounds like an easy peasy to add a third-party dependence. Okay, the question about React Native was already asked, but still I want to ask it again. So why shouldn't I use Flutter instead of React Native? What benefits can I get? Because, React Native actually allows me to do quite similar things, build web applications which are quite suitable for mobile phones, for tablets, for almost everything. So what's the difference?
Okay. You told that React Native do everything almost the same way, but not exactly.
Okay.
For example, React Native is using native UI components. So React Native don't render something on your screen. And it's necessary to build your UI using native UI component. And sometimes there are no analogs, and you still need to write different logic for different UI because some UI components for iOS don't have analogs on Android and vice versa. And in Flutter, you have like absolutely freedom. You can paint everything as you want, and it will be the same everywhere. And regarding web, React Native and web, you mean React, but like code usability for React and React Native, not 100%. It's about 60% or 7. I don't remember exact numbers, but not in Flutter. 100% of usage of code. Of course, if you don't need like different layouts, because sometimes you need to do something different ways. But if you do nothing, it will be just the same on the web, on iOS and Android, and it will work without anything if you don't need something specifically.
Okay, it sounds like a better solution in case if you want to have the same user interface everywhere. Well, thank you very much for answering it. We have another question in the chat, and people are asking how hard will it be switched to Flutter development from Python. I have the same question. Will it be hard to switch to Flutter from Java?
It's two different questions because I'm not very experienced in Python, but I used to be Java developer. Yeah. You know, Flutter has a very low like level to entrance. It's very simple to start to do something. And you know, on the official resource flutter.dev, there are special like parts with name. Flutter start for Android developers, Flutter start for iOS developer, Flutter start for React Native developer, even for Xamarin developers. And in terms of technology from which you are switching to Flutter, just to easy understand like the first steps. And after first steps, there is a common like flow. And if you already developer, start to work with Flutter, it's pretty easy. And the probably the most difficult part, if you're not familiar with declarative approach of building UI, it will be a little bit hard to understand from the beginning because it's completely, if you worked with imperative approach always, I think you know the difference between imperative and declarative. Imperative is how you how program should do something, and declarative what you need to get in result. So in Flutter, your code is like a configuration of everything that you will have on your screen. And if you didn't meet something similar before, like me when I started, first time, it's like brain exploding. But when you get it, it was really easy, and you start thinking differently and understand that it's much easier to implement UI than using imperative.
Alexander, it will be last question, and from me, is it easier to get to start Dart and Flutter developer if you have experience in CSS, or if you have an experience in Python or Java?
Or HTML.
Because CSS is also a declarative approach.
To be honest, really hard to answer because it's two different sides. From one side, if you have no experience like in coding and algorithms, but you know how to make UI. From other side, you know algorithms, but not familiar with the approach.
Yes. What's most important?
I can't answer, to be honest, okay. Because for me, I just mentioned that the most complicated thing was to understand declarative approach because I didn't meet it before. But I don't know if you know only declarative approach but never never write code in Java or like object-oriented functional language, because Dart it's a partially object-oriented language with a bit functional like parts. You can write code in Dart with functional patterns.
Thank you,
So,
Alexander.
I hope I answered to. If I answered not all questions, feel free to ping me, as I mentioned, in Twitter, in Teams, and I will answer to all of them.
Thank you very much, Alexander.